Hello guys, welcome to another session of Excel for Work, our virtual training program to help you work smart and increase productivity at work. In today's session, we'll be covering topic 4, lookup with ease using index match, XLOOKUP, and the filter function. Let's get started. But before we start off, let's try and understand the purpose of a lookup function and what they do. So, like we said earlier, Excel is used for three main things: for storing data, for calculation, and for analyzing data. Okay, now from time to time, there will be a need to extract or to reference some information from your database. Okay, this is where lookup functions become handy. Lookup functions allow you to search for certain information from a database using what we call a lookup value or a key. So ideally, in most lookup functions, they have these three main requirements. First, where is your answer coming from? We call that the result array. The other requirement is the keyword you are using for the search, which is the lookup value. And the last one is the lookup array, or sometimes the table array, the column or the table that contains your keyword. For instance, over here is my database of student IDs, their names, and their grades. If I want to do a lookup of the grade, I need to have a student ID. Once I'm able to provide my student ID, I can tell the grade of that student. So in that instance, my grade is my result area. My student ID I'm going to provide is the lookup value. And then this list of student IDs is a lookup array. You'll notice that wherever the result array is, that's exactly where your lookup array will also be. So the result array and the lookup array always reside in your database. So this is my database because this is where my result is going to come from. My lookup value, however, will sit outside my database. So let's try this. To help us do this effectively, we need to create a data validation over here. A data validation restricts the input into a cell. Another advantage is it provides you with a drop-down list if you are using a list data validation. To create this, you go to Data, and in Data, under Data Tools, we have Data Validation. So you select Data Validation. At the moment, it selects or it allows any value, but then we can restrict that to a list, and then we provide the source. So this is my source of my list. I hit OK. What this means is now I have restricted the entries into this cell to just this list. So now I'm going to select ID number 1008. And I'm going to use one lookup function called index and match to determine the grade of the student from my database. Now these are the arguments for index and match. You first need to provide the result array. So select the column, which is a result array, and give it to index. Then you start with the match function. You first provide your lookup value, which is your key, which is this. And then you select the column that contains your list of lookup values, which is your lookup array, which is this. So my formula is going to be equal to index. I need to first provide my result array. Where's my result coming from? I'm expecting to have grades. So this is where my result is coming from. Then I go with match. My lookup value always sits outside the database. So that's it. And then this is the lookup array, which sits inside the database. Now we have different types of match. We have what we call an exact match and an approximate match. You select an exact match when your lookup value is clearly seen within the list of lookup arrays. Okay, so then you are exactly matching your lookup value to the list of lookup arrays. However, in the instances where your lookup value is in a range or it's not clearly visible within your lookup array, then you use what we call an approximate match, which is either less than or greater than based on how your lookup array is arranged. So then I have this. So this is my formula: index, my result array, match, my lookup value. This is my lookup array, and then 0 for exact match. I close a function once for match, and I close it another time for index. So what this means is if I change my ID, I expect the grade to reflect the new ID selected. Is that okay? Great. We can also use this to calculate or to determine the name of the student using the student's ID. So let's give it a try. Equal to index. This time around, we want to determine the name of the student. So our result is going to come from the list of names. Then I provide match as my next function. What am I using to do the search? I'm using the student ID for my search. When I select that, I need to now provide the list of IDs in my database, which is this. The next question is my ID visibly within my lookup array? If it is visibly sitting within my lookup array, I can choose an exact match. If it, however, finds itself within a range, then I need to use an approximate match. So this is my formula for finding the name of the students who has provided their student ID. Enter, and I have Yvonne. So if I change this to 1007, I have the grade and I have the name. So that is how index match works as a lookup function. Okay, now let's try our hands on some real life problems. Okay, so in this instance, we have pharmacy shop called a Finex pharmacy shop drug list. We have the product name, manufacturing date, product ID, expiry date, quantity, and unit price. Now, the activity is to first turn this data into an Excel table called drug list, and in column J, we want to write a formula that will provide us the product name, expiry date, unit price, and available quantity based on the product ID we have selected. So let's get started. First, we need to convert this into a table. So you realize this is not a table because once I stand within it, we don't have a new tab called table design. So standing here, Control T, I select my block of data. Yes, my table has headers, and I hit OK. Now I can name this as mdrag. So this is my mdrag list table. Okay, now I'm going to use index match to answer these questions. So equal to index. Question is, where is my result going to come from? I'm expecting product name, so it's going to come from the mdrag list table, open square brackets, product name, close square brackets. That's where my result is going to come from. Next, I provide a match function. Match function requires a lookup value, which is J30. And then my lookup array will also come from my database. So mdrag list is my database, so I need to provide that. And then this time, I'm going to provide lookup value, which is product ID. So lookup array is product ID. The match type, again, is an exact match because this particular ID can visibly be seen or identified within my lookup array. So I close my function twice, first for match, and the second for index. Hit enter, and I have Artivan. If I change this, I expect this to also change as well. Okay, let's calculate for our expiry date. So index, where is my result going to come from? It's going to come from the mdrag list, but then I need specific, so I provide expiry date. Provide a match function. This is my lookup value. My lookup array is the product ID, exact match, close it once, close it twice. So drag list expiry date match. This is my lookup value over here. This is my lookup array, exact match. Okay, let's try this together. Index. What are we looking for this time? We're looking for unit price. But again, we need to call out our table. Unit price. Okay, so you see unit price is selected. The match, lookup value, lookup array, call my table again, product ID, exact match, close my function once, twice, enter. Last bit is quantity. So index, my table, quantity, match function, lookup array is going to come from my table, product ID, exact match, close my function once, twice. So you realize that index first requires you to provide where your result is going to come from, then comma, then you move to match your lookup array, your lookup value, then your lookup array before you choose the match type, exact. Okay, so once this is run by formulas, anytime I change this back to Activan, you realize that it provides me the details of Activan. So that's the name, the expiry date, unit price, and available quantity. So lookup makes it easy to reference or to find out information from a database by providing a key or a lookup value. Okay, now let's move on to instances where we have what we call the approximate match. Okay, so let's first understand our tables. So we have customer invoices. These are their order numbers, the item costs, number of items, amount, and discounts. And over here, we have what we call a discount table. So we have amount, we have discount rate. It says in column F, calculate the appropriate discount rate using the discount rate table. So based on the amount that has been purchased by the individual or the customer, we want to know what discount to be given to the person. And that's what I was referring to. You realize that in this instance, we have 1,363.8, but then that amount does not sit over here. Okay, that amount cannot be visibly seen over here. The best we can do is to use an approximate match from our discount rate table. And per our discount rate table, all those who have 0 or make a purchase of 0 get a 0%. Those who make 500 get 2%. And those who make 1,000 make 3%. So that means those who make 0 to 499 get 0%. 500 to 999 make 2%. 1,000 to 1,499 make 3%. 1,500 to 1,999 make 4.5%, and so on and so forth. So we realize that in this time we are working with boundaries, we're working with ranges. So we need to find the range in which our number falls in, and then that's what we're going to use for our computation. So when you come here, we're going to do index. The question you need to ask yourself is, what result are you looking for in this column? So in this column, my result is supposed to be a discount rate. So these are the results I'm looking for. So I'm going to log this absolutely function F4. Okay, because I'm going to copy down. Then you bring your match function. Now the question is, what is your lookup value? What is your lookup value? What are you using for the search? Okay, so you have a list of values over here. You also have a list of values over here. Which of them is your lookup value? Now, I told you that you first need to know what your database is. Once you know your database, you will know which of them is your lookup array and which is your lookup value. Like I said, the database is wherever the result is coming from. Whatever table, whatever data block your result is coming from. So in this instance, this is not our database because our result is a discount rate and it sits in this block of data. So once this is our database, automatically we know that this is our lookup array. Okay, that means whatever is not within this table is our lookup value. So this figure, these figures over here, these amounts here are our lookup values. So I need to select the value sitting in cell E53. However, that has been blocked by my formula. So I'm going to select E52 and just drop one step downwards with my direction key. So comma, now I provide my lookup array. These are my lookup array. I need to also log this absolutely, F4. And then I'm going to do this time not an exact match because you realize my lookup value does not sit within the list of my lookup array. So which of the approximate match do I select? Less than or greater than? Now the trick to knowing which one to select is this. Based on how your lookup array is arranged, it's arranged in ascending order from the least all the way to the largest. You use the less than match type. If it's however arranged from the largest to the least, you use the greater than match type. So in this instance, we have 0, we have 500, 1000. So you see it's an ascending order. So we use the less than. So you close the bracket once, twice, enter. Okay. Once we've logged our formula appropriately, we can just double click and then expect it to apply across all the amounts. So this is how you use index match to calculate for an exact and approximate match instances. Okay, let's move on to the next lookup function, which is XLOOKUP. So we're going to try and accomplish the same thing we just did, but this time with the XLOOKUP function. So first, let's understand the requirements or the arrangement of the XLOOKUP function. So the XLOOKUP function first asks for your lookup value, and the second argument is the lookup array before you provide your result array. So let's start by trying to accomplish the same activity we did this time with XLOOKUP. So over here, we're going to create another data validation so that we can select our student IDs. This time, I'm going to use a shortcut Alt-DL. That gives me the data validation drop-down pane. Select list, and then my source is going to be this. Okay, I hit this and I select OK. So now I have my drop-down over here. Now I'm going to use XLOOKUP to accomplish this. So equal to XLOOKUP. So first it requires my lookup value, which is over here. The lookup array, which is the list of student ID, and my return array, which is this. However, you realize that there are other arguments the function has provided, but these arguments are in square brackets. Whatever arguments of a function are in square brackets, it means they're not mandatory for the function to work. You can still have this function working without providing them. So I close this and I hit enter. I still get my results. What these arguments do, for instance, if not found, is that in the instance where my argument or my lookup value is not found within the list, then it's going to provide me an option to provide an error message. For instance, if not found, indicate student not in database. So in this instance, 106 is within the database. However, if I change this ID to 105, I get my error message, which is student not in database. Now this is very different from what index match would do. For index match, over here, if I take away my lookup value, in this instance, let me change this to 106. If I change this to 105, you realize that I get error messages, which is any, not available. Okay, so XLOOKUP allows you to provide an error message so that you determine what the error message would be instead of just getting a plain error. So that's one advantage. Another advantage is it also allows you to select the match type. So by default, the match type is an exact match. However, you can change this to 1, -1, or 2 using this description: exact match or next smaller item, exact match or next larger item, wildcard character match. And then we have how to do the search, whether you want to start the search from the top or for the bottom, or we want to sort them out before you do the search. So all these are available with XLOOKUP. Okay, now let's try our hands on our pharmacy example. Okay, this time we're going to name our table X drug list. So Control T, okay, come to table and name this X drug list. Enter. Once I'm done, I'll select one item from my data validation and let's do the calculation. So equal to, let's look up. This is my lookup value. Where can this be found in my database? So X drug list is my database, and then this particular item is a product ID. And now I provide my results. So X drug list, and then I'm going to select product name. Okay, I close it once because it's just one function I'm using. So expiry dates, so X lookup. My lookup value is over here. My lookup array is X drug list, open square bracket, product ID, close square bracket, and now I select my results array, which also comes from the X drug list table. So now I'm looking for expiry dates. So I select expiry date and I close my function. I hit enter. Unit price. So X lookup, my lookup value, lookup array is X drug list, product ID, return array. What do I want to return? I want to return expiry date. This time the unit price. Okay, so quantity is going to be X lookup, lookup value, my lookup array is X drug list, product ID, and then what am I looking for? So I call my table, and this time I specify my return array, which is quantity, close my function, enter. So realize in all these instances, I didn't need to specify the match because, like I said, XLOOKUP always uses an exact match by default. Now let's look at instances where we need to do an approximate match, like we just did earlier. So for this, we're going to use the XLOOKUP function. What is our lookup value? We agreed that this is our lookup value because this happens to be our database. Okay, our lookup array sits over here. I'm going to log this. Return array sits here. I'll log this as well. I'm logging these because they are not tables and I'm going to copy them. If I had created a table called a discount rate table, I wouldn't have needed to log. Okay, so once I'm done, I can provide an error message. If not, I'll just bring another comma and move to the next argument. Exact match, which is by default. That's not what I want. This time I want an exact match or the next smaller item. So if they go into the table and do not find 1363, I want them to provide me with the next smaller item, which is 1000. Right? So 1000 is the next smaller item, and then it's going to match that 1000 against the discount rate. So I'll select this tab and close bracket once, and I hit enter. So I get my 3% and double click, and there you have it. Okay, so that's how you use XLOOKUP to accomplish the same results as index match. Once we are done with this, we can move on to our last function for the day, the filter function. The filter function is one of the newest Excel 365 functions. It's only available in Microsoft Excel 365. Now, this function does a little more than what your average lookup function does. While lookup functions provide you with one instance or a lookup of the result of one instance of your lookup value, the filter function can provide you with all instances of your search. So this is what I'm saying. So over here, what the filter function requires is first your result array, or your array for short, and then it requires what we call the include argument. The include argument is a condition between the lookup array and the lookup value. So you are comparing the lookup array to the lookup value using our normal mathematical operatives. That's less than, greater than, equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or not equal to. So you use just a logical test where you compare the lookup value and the lookup array. So over here, if I select my student ID as 1007 and I want to use a filter function, this is how it works. So equal to filter. The first thing is to provide my result or my array. So I'm just going to provide this as a result. And then the include argument, which is, like I said, a logical test comparing your lookup value to your lookup array. So this time I'm going to say my lookup ID is equal to the list of students ID over here. And I close bracket and I hit enter. So I have this. When I change this, I expect this to change as well. So we're going to now try our hands on some of the examples and understand how the filter function works. So let's move down. Okay. So we have an activity where we have to extract the details of staff that worked in the various firms during the selected month. So we need to create a data validation for a month, and then we'll extract all the details of staff who worked within that month. So to do this, I'm going to use the unique function. All I need to do is provide me the list of months. So this is my list of months. It's okay. So this is the unique list of months within my data sets. So I'm going to use my data validation to create this dropdown. So Alt DL list. This is my source. And I have my list of months over here. So let's start list June. Okay. So I'm going to write a formula that will help me extract the entire details of staff who worked in June. Okay. So equal to filter. Now you realize that I just do not want a particular month or name or gender or email. I'm not interested in a particular column in the table. I'm interested in all the details in the table for those who worked in June. So I'm going to select my table. When I bring my mouse this way, I can, because it's a table and I have it pointing the way it's looking now, when I click on it, it selects the entire table, which is table 22. I haven't named my table. You can name it however. So this is my entire table. Now all I'm going to say is my lookup value, which is this, is equal to table 22 month, close bracket, and enter. And I have the information for all those who worked in the month of June. So if I change this to August, I have August. If I change this to July, I have July. So you realize that the filter function doesn't just extract the first instance of your lookup value, but it extracts all instances of your lookup value. Okay, let's try the next example to further understand how the filter function works. So produce the names of staff that earned a commission of more than 9,000. Produce the names of staff that earned a commission of more than 9,000. Okay, this time around, we just want the names of staff. So equal to filter. I'm going to call my table name. So this is giving me just a name. And then I'm going to provide my condition. Okay, so I'm looking at instances where the commission is more than 9,000. So if I call my table and I take commission, which is a commission column, realize it's selected. I'm going to say it's greater than 9,000. And I'm going to close my bracket and hit enter. And Hallie and her friends are the only ones who had a commission of more than 9,000. So let me place a value into a cell 9,000. So I can also take away this 9,000 and select this value. So that way I can change this value from time to time to just 1,000. It will give me the list of all those who are earning more than 1,000. Okay, so I hope you've learned a lot and now understand how to use these various lookup functions to get the results you want. Thank you for joining me in this section, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.